What is one thing that you attribute most to your own personal growth?
I'll let you start.
All right, guys, I'm in Istanbul, Turkey, and I'm about to release a video, a Q&A that Sarah and I did together. We talk about our relationship, building businesses together in some sense, everything in between, kind of a couples entrepreneur therapy session. Let's go. Hope you enjoy.
Today we are doing something a little different, and we are doing a totally open Q&A. So both Sumner and I asked for some questions on our Instagrams, and we got a whole wide range of questions, mainly about our relationship, but also about life, business, travel, living in Bali. And you got some as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sumner got mainly business questions.
Yeah.
Everyone's always interested to know how the man, the myth, the legend does what he does. We got a lot of questions, and Sumner's got a lot of things to say. We can jump right into it. But if you don't know who we are, I'm Sarah.
I'm Sumner.
And we live in Bali, and we both own our own businesses, and we share our lives on social media. So that's why people are even interested in what we have to say. Or maybe you're interested, maybe you're not. Maybe you will be after this, but we can jump right into the questions. What is one thing that you attribute most to your own personal growth?
I'll let you start.
I would say most of my own personal growth has just come from my life experiences, which have usually come from me, well, two different things. One, from me just making pretty drastic decisions or like big changes in my life, which has kind of prompted me to have to level up because of them. Like deciding to move across the country at a really young age prompted me to have to figure out how to provide for myself and make more money and figure out something I was passionate about so I could keep doing that sustainably, or deciding to move to new places where I didn't know anyone, which has been very uncomfortable. So all these like really big dramatic decisions that some people might think about doing for their whole lives and never actually do, I've kind of just done on a whim for most of them, which has prompted me to really have to level up. So that's part of it. The second part of what I attribute to my personal growth would be just like going through hard things. And then there's definitely a lot that I haven't processed from those hard things, but a lot of my personal growth has been just kind of becoming stronger through that. I think just I've never let any of my circumstances in life like hold me back from continuing forward or like continuing to move forward. And I attribute that a lot to my growth, because every time you go through something hard, you learn about kind of what you're capable of.
What about the people that have gone through hard things and have made big changes that aren't where you are though? What's like their layer deeper than that? Because there's many folks that have gone through similar things or thrown themselves in the deep end that might not be where you are or have the clarity that you have or the purpose. So there's got to be something deeper, I would say, beyond that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that I try to look at life is you have two choices. You either choose to make the most of it, or you choose to dwell on the shit that doesn't go your well. And the people who dwell on the shit that doesn't go your way or the hard things in life tend to stay in those hard things a lot longer. And I try to take the route of like, yes, maybe I haven't worked through everything, but like that I'm going to keep moving forward. Like I'm not going to let myself dwell on those things. And yeah, that might have its own issues, but I think it's like the cup half full type of person that I've like really tried to be. That's helped me get to where I am today.
I would say on one hand is like my ability to be introspective, but I think even beyond that, I mean, it's so stupid, but I think having a chip on my shoulder, honestly, probably to some extent. And that's just giving me like the stick with itness, just to stick around. And it's like all the magic happens when you stick around, like the learnings happen, the progress, the compounding. And I feel like if you don't really have like that kind of fire in your belly, maybe you wouldn't stick around. I think most people don't. So it's not really a great answer, but if I really drilled it down, maybe that. Beyond that, on a more like positive side, I think being able to observe myself and my behaviors and just kind of like trying to be as objective as I can. And then you just, through that objectivity, you just end up like it all boils back to like, well, you're solely responsible for everything in your life. And so when you get that clear, you recognize there is no scapegoat, there's no bad circumstance, there's no person or one thing that's preventing you from doing whatever it is that you want. But I think that like you can hear that on social media, but it's different when you really kind of sit and observe yourself. You're like, wow, damn. well, it really is all on me. That's actually kind of liberating. So that's more like something that I think I've chosen. The chip on the shoulder thing, I don't think I really chose that per se.
Yeah, and it's so funny because even both of us asking these questions, personal growth, I feel like in my mind, it always relates back to like success or like where you are in life. Now thinking about it more, I'm like personal growth is really just like learning from your life experiences and applying that so you hopefully don't make the same mistakes again.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that success, whatever that is, I mean, I think people have such a slim view of it, but I don't really think anyone's living a successful life if they are, avoiding certain parts of themselves or what have you. And I would even say that, like, even superficial success, I don't know how sustainable that really is without integrating all parts of you. And so that's my definition of success. And you see these people that are like flashes in the pan. But I don't know. I feel like that stuff always crashes and burns. Like the people that are, and I think I've been there too, but like you're displaying behavior because you're trying to avoid feeling something or running from something. So I think ultimately that my version of success is super well rounded. I have no idea what this person even meant by the question.
It's a broad question.
I'm going to take it from like the 30,000 foot view.
There's a trend right now on social media. You know the song like, I'm a rich girl. Well, it's a trend. It's like, I'm a rich girl. And then it's like rich in love, rich in experiences, rich in friends, whatever. And I think as cheesy as all those social media trends are, it's like those cute ones, they stick with you. And you're like, fuck, yeah, I am rich.
Yeah. Well, that's a rich life.
That's a rich life.
That's a rich life. And I think that's what people really mean. They have mistaken it for dollars in the bank, but plenty of people that have that don't have a rich life. So it's rich in all categories. Yeah,
for sure. Okay. Do you think that a relationship can aid in your success or take away from it from both of our perspectives? And I think they're probably saying success in terms of like your business success.
You want to answer?
Yeah.
I mean, yes and no. I think the selection of the partner, it matters more than anything else. It's not like, relationships will or won't. It's who you select that will or won't. And also who you are as a person, but that's going to lead to who you select. I mean, you can never exceed, like, you can't be operating up here and find a partner down here and vice versa. Like, I just don't think that typically happens. And so to find a great partner, you have to be in that place yourself, I believe. But anyways, I think the decision that you make for who you want to spend time with and spend your life with is probably the most important decision you'll ever decide on. I mean, the statistics don't lie. Like, most relationships don't pan out well. I think a lot of that's just from like the selection of who you've picked. People picking out of scarcity or urgency or ticking biological clocks or what have you. So if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, yeah, definitely take away. I mean, it could be the worst decision you ever make. If you've chosen right, I think it'll only aid your success. And I think that like a lot of men in particular use that as a scapegoat, this idea of, I want to work on myself or I got to become financially successful. It's a crock of crap. It's just really someone that's scared to commit. And that's fine, but just call it what it is. So yeah, my vote is, timing's everything. So if you're in the right time of your life in terms of not like you have it all figured out, but you have the ability to attract an amazing partner in your life, which that requires some level of work. That doesn't happen by happenstance or coincidence. But if you've got that figured out, you two going together, the sum is greater than its parts. 1 + 1 ends up equaling like 3 or 4. You'll go farther, you'll go faster, you'll live a better life all around. So don't think about like becoming financially stable or trying to become successful first. Just get into a place where you can find the right partner. And I think you'll go farther with the right partner. And I think honestly, being in a relationship is probably the greatest like self-development thing you could ever do. There's a baseline that you have to meet. Like there's some stuff you got to figure out before then. But I'm a fan of it. And I think far too many people avoid it.
I'm glad that you're a fan. I'm glad you're a fan. I agree. I think obviously if it's the wrong partner, the wrong timing in your life, that can be incredibly emotionally draining, which can take away from like you achieving what you want. Because the right partner will see the best in you. Like they will see the things about you that you might not even love about yourself as much. And so if you're with the person that always sees the best in you and like knows that you will succeed and just believes in you, I think it will definitely aid in your success in every area of life. But yeah, I mean, if you're with someone who is maybe bringing up your trauma, your shit, or you're in that same cycle of life of just going through it with them over and over again, yeah, of course that's going to take away from you reaching the next level. Absolutely. And I think relationships are really a choice. Like as much as you love somebody, like again, most people don't leave a relationship just because they it happens that people fall out of love, but that's not usually the reason that you just stop loving someone. But if the circumstances aren't right, the relationship can go sideways no matter what. So I definitely think the right person can help you reach the next level in every area, financially, emotionally, confidence, happiness, everything. You truly do spend more time with your partner than anyone else.
Yeah.
When you're early 20s, teenage years, you spend all your time with your friends, and hopefully you meet your partner, you spend a lot of time with them, then you have a family, you invest more time in your kids and maybe your parents again and your family, and then the rest of your life it's just you and your partner.
I would just use the reverse example with people that question it, and it's like, well, why couldn't you make that same analogy for friends? Like, and again, let's just talk about you're trying to go and start something or do something or build something. Is it going to be better to do it with no friends? Probably not. So having no love in your life or no relationship, probably a bad idea. Would it be better to do it with friends, but not really the right friends? That's probably not great either. Would it be better to do it with friends that are amazing, that lift you up, where you see eye to eye, they inspire you, they motivate you? Hell yeah. So if that applies there, why would that not apply to a relationship? And I think that purely if we're just talking about starting something, like if you're talking about building a business, in the beginning, the two biggest things are like time and your composure. It's like your frame of mind, because you get paid based off how much time you put in the beginning and the quality of decisions that you make. And so if you're going and chasing people all the time and you're single, you don't have much time and you might not have the right mental composure. You definitely don't have that if you're in a toxic relationship. If you're in the right relationship, you should have a good amount of time and you should have, hopefully, composure. So I think if it's done right, it's the best thing you can decide to do. Yeah. And all the statistics support it too. Not that I'm like a statistics person, but the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. And men who end up single die first.
Yep.
So something to think about if you're one of those guys out there saying, I got to have X amount of dollars in my bank account or get to this promotion at your job. That's usually not the case if you
No, it's always not the case. That's where I'd say being introspective is important. You're fooling yourself at that point. Yeah. And if that's what's going to allow you to attract the right partner, you're going after the wrong partner. I think a partner, especially when women are looking at men, having a man that wants to go somewhere, maybe has some direction and ambition, it's important, but you don't already have to be at that destination. So if that's where you feel worthy to go find a partner is when you have this promotion or this thing, you got to ask backwards. And if someone does want to date you for that reason, they're the wrong person through and through.
That's true. If someone only wants to date you when you do have X numbers in your bank account, it's probably not the right situation to be in. Okay, this was a Ask Abby type of question. What was the column growing up? An advice column. Okay. My boyfriend doesn't plan in advance and he's super independent. I am more codependent and I need a lot more quality time than he does. Do I just need to work on myself more and my own independence? I really like him and I feel like this is a big hurdle. Help.
She's saying that her boyfriend's too independent.
He's very independent.
He doesn't plan things?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Boyfriend doesn't plan in advance and he's super independent and she's more codependent and needs more quality time than he does.
I mean, look, I'm not a relationship therapist, but there's two layers to this that you'd have to separate. The first is you guys might have just a different way of wanting to be loved and expressing your love. And, she might want more quality time together. Maybe that's where she gets her boxes ticked and maybe he doesn't care for that. That's worth communicating, or frankly, it might be it's just the wrong relationship. People operate differently. But I think that every woman wants to feel like at least that a guy has, some, you guys do special things together. It doesn't have to be he's Casanova and is building an island for you to go to and I don't know, something unbelievable every weekend. But you do something together. It could be as simple as taking a walk together, just time that is carved out for you and your partner. I think it's a baseline core need for everyone, even beyond what your love language is. So that to me seems like a non-negotiable, to be honest. And the first thing is to just communicate this. And if you haven't communicated it, do that. Asking us here is probably make sure you've asked him first or talked to him first. Look, if he can't meet that need for you, in my opinion, the most mature thing that you can do is part ways with no hard feelings. You've got limited time on this earth, so not all of us are compatible, both as it relates to friendships and partnerships, and that's okay. It's not like I don't love you thing or I don't care for you thing, but your time is finite, so choose people that bring you up, that raise you up, that mesh well with you, and you get to choose that. That's a really hard thing, though, when it comes to love, is that people have so much scarcity around being loved, and so they glom onto things that aren't ever serving them and won't ever serve them, and they're writing so clear on the wall. But it's scary to jump, and it takes a high level of faith in the world and faith in yourself that you are worthy of love and there's someone else out there to love you that's a perfect match for you, or maybe many people, who knows.
I read this quote a while back that it said, high effort people need high effort partners. So if you know the effort you put in, and again, your love languages might not match, and that's something you do need to communicate. But if you are someone who is you always feel like you're the one putting in all the effort in a relationship and it's not reciprocated, eventually that's going to catch up. And I think that could just be a mismatch in the way that you need to receive love. So I think Sumner's spot on. Like, the first thing to do is like communicate it. Like, I need more quality time. And I really do think there's a difference between being codependent in a relationship and needing quality time. Like, everybody needs quality time, and whether that's a weekly date night or something spontaneous, or I think what we've seen is like having new experiences together, whether that's traveling to new places or just going on a different type of date night, mixing things up is a really cool type of quality time that brings you closer. But you might just need more like actual quality. It might not be more volume of time. Like, maybe it's just more, like, I know for Sumner, when we started dating, he was like, put that fucking phone away. Like, that phone needs to go.
I still say that.
Yeah, but I'm definitely much better about it, especially like when we're on date nights and stuff. I'm definitely very present with you. I used to be like work to be that present, and now it doesn't take work for me to do that. Maybe not always, but definitely when we're on like dates and stuff together. But I think, like, for you, I think quality time is one of your top love languages. And I don't just mean, like, we spend every day together all the time. I mean, like, when we are together, you want me here, present, looking in your eyes. Like, and I know that about you. When I think in my past relationships, the quality time was like they just wanted to be together all the time, like have all of this, like all the volume of my time. And so I think understanding like what you really want here, because some of that might be needing to work on spending time by yourself too. Like, if you want to spend all of your time with your partner, you're gonna butt heads usually. So if that's the issue, that might be more codependency. But if it's that you want true quality time and your needs are not getting met in your relationship, then yeah, Sumner's spot on. Like, it might just be not the right pairing for you. Yeah. My top love language is definitely physical touch. Like, I love not like always having to be on top of each other, but even just like touching or like holding my hand or his arm on my back, just like little things like that, like sparks my like connection so much. And Sumner does that very naturally. But if he didn't, and we'd have to like consistently talk about it, like my needs just wouldn't be met. And so thankfully we matched pretty well on that. But I definitely had to work on being more present in our relationship for sure.
I agree.
Okay. What is something that you really value about your relationship that has made it different from past relationships?
You want to go first? Do you know yours? Yeah, it's hard to say.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things, but I think it's also the fact that like I had grown so much, so I knew what I wanted going into our relationship from past relationships, and I think I can communicate. I'm definitely not always a perfect communicator, but I do think I can communicate so much better than in my past relationships. And we did date and really get to know each other before we were like all in committed in this relationship. Sumner's very patient and understanding, which I think in my past relationships, I think I've dated people who were pretty reactive. Like, if there was something that they didn't like or something that they had an issue with, they were very like, it was like an all out big blowout every time, instead of, even though it's uncomfortable for me to have like confrontational, loving conversations, it's like very uncomfortable for me. Like, it's probably in my nature easier to like either leave and like run away or like have an all out blowout. But Sumner's really patient because he is so introspective. He's very good at like, even if I hate this about how we communicate, sometimes he's very good at sitting with his thoughts and feelings and then coming to me with like a logical conversation, which I do think I appreciate so much, because we don't ever really have like huge issues in our relationship because we have these uncomfortable conversations when anything comes up.
Yeah.
So even in the moment, if I might not like that or feel resistance to it, I do value that a lot about how you communicate.
Yeah, it's all communication, man. That's the secret. And no one has it figured out, but it does seem to be the secret. There's a lot of things, but to sum it up into like one major one, I mean, there's like some that are like baseline, but actually pretty major. I think the fact that like we lead pretty similar lives, like that's a pretty big difference, or pretty big difference relative to other relationships. Just because people were taking different paths, and that seems really small, but like the time that you get to spend together gets all jumbled up. Like, I remember in previous relationships, they wouldn't get home until super late, so like you have like a very small window to see each other, and then leave early in the morning. So I don't know, like I actually appreciate having a schedule and a life that can kind of weave in together a little bit more, that allows us to have similar interests and passions. Like if we want to go traveling together, we know for certain it's going to pretty much line up with both of us at a moment's notice. That seems like a small point, but those are things that I think we both really value on our own. And that was stuff that was hard in previous relationships, like just walking such different paths, just from like a really like pragmatic point of view. I just don't think a lot of relationships have that, honestly. There's a lot of experience to experience in a short amount of time because we have similar schedules, as simple as that sounds. I guess that, what comes with that too is like the context that you have just in terms of like where I'm at in life and what I've chosen to do with my life, which some people get jealous with that, or there's an envy because there's kind of like, can be time going in other places, or, just it comes with a lot. I feel like you've always been very understanding of that and always supportive no matter what. That wasn't always the case. I mean, there's always support in previous relationships, but kind of up until a certain point, you know what I mean? And once it started to encroach, which there's limits, and I think I've gotten better at it, but that's been a big one. I mean, it's funny. I think this was like one of those things that I was very struck by in the beginning, but I think we're kind of like actually reversing it in a sense. What looked like you're extremely emotionally stable, which you are emotionally stable.
We're reversing it.
Yeah, making you not emotionally stable. No, you were very like emotionally sound. And I don't mean that to say that most women aren't, but just different than I would say than most women that I've known. And I think that what we've learned is actually, well, maybe some of that stuff is emotion that actually does want to come out and is there. That's what I mean about reversing it, not becoming emotionally unstable.
You're becoming psychotic.
But just, letting those things come out. That's been a big one. Yeah, I think ultimately, through and through, you want to make sure that as much as possible, too, you and your partner are trying to walk similar paths. Mm-hmm. Do we want to end up at the same place? Do we value the same things? And I think we do. And I think that that's really important in all areas. I mean, we don't have to have all the same interests and hobbies, but again, I just don't think that like you and your partner to have always got to be pretty aligned and matched up. And once someone starts going up here and someone's down here, like that's when stuff starts to get jumbled up. And so I feel like we are always kind of hand in hand going in the right direction together, where we both want to go. And that's also true just with like the timing of how we want things to go in our life. So that's a lot. I mean, in relationships, I think you need to have someone that you enjoy their company, like you are friends. I think you need to respect them. There has to be romance there. And ultimately, you have to want a similar vision for your life. When you could have the first three, but if that last one is missing, there's going to be constant friction. Like if your husband's a traveling shoe salesman and you just want to live a trad life on a farm and have goats and, grow your own food, and he's gone 6 days out of the week, you can have the first three, but I don't know if anyone could persevere that long enough. So I think we have those boxes ticked.
Yeah, I mean, at the core of it, I think, like, despite all my relationship history, at the core, no one that I've dated previously has shared the same vision that I have for my life. And Sumner and I are truly friends. Like, we joke around, we banter, we have fun together. We can hang out with guys, girls, and just have fun. Like, we really are friends. And one day when we're old and we're not so hot, we're going to have a lot of fun together. None of my past relationship have started really from more of a friendship standpoint. And, like, I think we really developed... Like, we weren't, like, love at first sight. Like, I didn't, like, know I was going to marry you in the first day. Like, we fell in love. Like, we really did. Like, the more we had the friendship, there was obviously a big physical attraction, but we really did fall in love the more we got to know each other, which I think is really powerful. Like, there was no pressure. There was no rush. Like, It was, like, all very natural. Yep. And so, yeah, I think all that you said and more. If you don't have the friendship, like, the relationship isn't going to last, in my opinion.
Yep.
Okay. What is your most embarrassing moment with your partner? I feel like neither of us really get embarrassed.
I mean, I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Neither of us really have much, like, that type of embarrassment, shame. Like, I feel like we just move forward very quickly.
Oh, God, I don't know. Do you have anything?
I can't think of anything really embarrassing.
That's a tough one. I don't know. I really would need to sit with that and think about it.
No, I can't think of anything embarrassing. I think Oh, maybe when, no, I don't think I was embarrassed, but when I accidentally took that edible and got so high. Like, in retrospect, if I wasn't so high, I would have been embarrassed. But I was just too far gone to like even have any form of embarrassment.
Yeah, that was funny.
Looking back, it's a little embarrassing.
Yep.
But
Not that bad though.
no, it could be a lot worse. I did like cry in the car and like convince myself that I was roofied, but I guess I wasn't that embarrassed.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that there's been any moments where I felt like a lot of embarrassment in our relationship. Of course, in life I have, but nothing that jumps out. I can't say.
I can't think of it.
Maybe if I sat on it for a while, but nothing jumps out.
I feel like I've never seen you get embarrassed by anything.
Yeah.
What does growth mindset mean to each of you, and how do you grow together? Oh, that's a hard question.
I think growth mindset's pretty simple. How do we grow together? That's a bigger one. But I mean, the growth mindset's fucking simple. It's like, look at whatever your circumstances are today, they're not limited to that. Whatever your level of progression is or lack thereof, you're not limited to that. There's always a up, down, right, left, just like angle you can move in. There's always a path forward. Might be non-obvious, but to find what the non-obvious path forward, first you got to believe the obvious, which is that's always possible. It's just that fucking simple. And even when you're at the top of your game and like you're doing wonderful, the growth mindset still applies there because there's always a rung up to go. I don't mean like in the literal sense, like, oh, there's more success to be had, but there's always improvements that can be made. There's always some level of progression that you get to experience. And it's trite, but I think it's also like a lot of the joy in life comes from the feeling of progressing too. And it's like this vicious snowball that compounds and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's almost like your growth mindset gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like it expands and expands and expands, and it expands so big that nothing is out of your reach. There is no path forward that you don't see or can't realize. And so I think it's a muscle that gets worked, and it's like an awareness that gets developed. But no matter what your situations are, no matter where you're at right now, there's always more. There's always more. There's always something that you can do. And that comes back to just like this radical personal responsibility. You can't shirk that responsibility. That will hang over you forever. That's either a blessing or a curse, depending on how you look at it. So to me, like, I mean, obviously limited in my own worldview, but to me, it's shocking that not everyone believes that. I'm like, that seems like such an obvious thing. And look at it, it's all relative. Like everyone's growth trajectory looks different. Like our situations are relative, and what we want is relative. It's not the same destination for every single person. But no matter what your situations are, there's always a path forward. Mm-hmm. And that's just the interesting thing about being a human too, is that God or the universe or whatever you believe in, like they put no literal dead ends anywhere other than death, which I don't even think is a dead end. It's our little monkey mind, lizard brain that's like, oh, this is a dead end. I'm so over. This is so like I'm bankrupt or like whatever the thing is. And it's like, no, there's never a dead end. You just got to believe that.
Yeah, I mean, working as a fitness coach and in the fitness industry, there's so many limits people put on themselves, like, oh, it's my genetics, or I've tried and I failed, I can't do it, my life's too crazy. So I think for me, growth mindset, it's the same. It's understanding like you can always change your circumstances. You're never stuck to where you are currently, and nothing is permanent. Like truly nothing is permanent. Even us moving to Bali, people are like, oh my God, that's such a big change. Like, what are you going to do? What if you want to come back to the US? We can. There's nothing in life that is such a permanent decision, maybe besides tattoos, but even now they can laser those off, that you can't change it. If you want to change something, it is up to that personal radical responsibility to do so. No one's going to hand you the life that you want. You have to create the vision, create the game plan, and implement to follow through. And that's what growth really is knowing you can do that again and again and again. Every single time there's what might seemingly be a roadblock in your way. Yeah. You can always change your path, change your mind.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy named Jeremy who was visiting us yesterday, or was visiting us here in Bali. They just left today. And we were doing an interview. I forget what we were talking about exactly. We finished like a video, and he was talking about getting comfortable doing public speaking. And I was just talking about how it's interesting. Like as a kid, I had such a bad speech impediment. I couldn't even say my first name. I couldn't speak up in class or anything along those lines. And now I have no problems with it. Like it never really comes up. But the journey from and there's like that example plays out so many different times in different ways in my life. But the journey of going from terrible to decent or terrible to good at anything is so meaningful. And it's like, I actually think it's probably one of the core human experiences. It's up there with love and all those other things. Maybe it's not on the same scale, but it's up there. To like, I think we all come into this world with things to learn, and we go on these journeys and we learn things and we collect them, and it's like we ascend partially. And so we all start at different areas and we have some deficits, and it's up to us to go and explore those areas. And it's something as simple as having such a bad speech impediment. The personal evolution that I had to go through, not even to get the end result, but who I became and what I learned about myself. It's like one of the greatest teachers ever. And so it's almost like those roadblocks are put there deliberately to teach us about the world around us and the universe and God even. Because something that's so strange is like once you start moving the puzzle pieces around and designing your life and becoming a creator, I don't know why or how, but things just start working for you. Like puzzle pieces just start falling into place in the weirdest way. And when we have something that we're so scared to look at, it gets bigger and nastier, and it seems like the world wants to put it in our face even more. You get teased more, you get picked on more, your speech impediment gets worse, or whatever. Again, I have limited scope. I've only lived for so long. But I've learned, like, once I started leaning into those things, reality just starts moving and shape-shifting to work with you. And maybe that's just my perspective, but I've seen that to be so evident in my life. And so there's something to be said, too, that I think that, like, being a growth-minded might not even be just like, oh, it's a choice I get to decide to. It might be a core prerequisite of living a good life to explore those areas that we want to improve. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, it's the same thing as like manifestation. I have such a hard time saying like, yes, I believe you can like just think of something and it comes to fruition. But every time in my own life that I've like really thought I was just so capable of doing something like this is going to happen, it's happened. So I do on one hand like completely believe in the law of attraction. So I'm like, why couldn't you manifest what you want in your reality? But you have to truly work to believe that like you're capable of it. And because I talk to women every single day about what their limiting beliefs are around like making change in their life, whether it's their career, whether it's where they live, whether it's with their physique, their fitness journey, I just think some of these limiting beliefs are just so ingrained in us, whether that's from when you were a kid, whether you're just telling yourself like it's too hard, I'm not capable. I think we all have our own limiting beliefs. Like I definitely have them as well, but I will never ever let myself dwell on them. Like I will always think of a solution. I think if you're a solution-oriented person, you are a growth-oriented person. How I've always kind of lived my life on default, honestly.
Yeah. I think some people do definitely come into the world with like a little more awareness around it. But again, we can all adopt whatever conditioning we want. You can pick up those programs if you'd like. Without a shadow of a doubt, I just could not be contested on the point that manifestation doesn't exist. Because how could you ever... I mean, it goes without saying that someone has to work to get a thing. Like you can't avoid that. I think The Secret kind of screwed people over when they're like, think about a check coming into your mailbox and you're going to be a millionaire and it'll be there. Like, I think they kind of grossly misrepresented it. But if we just zoomed out, how would anyone ever consistently work hard at a thing and give it their all if first it didn't start in their mind and they thought it was possible? So even if you don't realize it, you've already manifested it because you decided to commit to action. And how could we decide to commit to action unless you've already committed to it and thought about it? And if you think it's possible, you'll never do something consistently if you don't think it's possible for yourself. And so like it's happening all the time. And I feel like the more aware we become of it, the stronger it becomes too. And then it just starts happening in the background. Like, I mean, things just pop up, boom, there they are, poof, there they are. And I was reminded of this yesterday. So we came to Bali in March last year and we stayed in Umalis. And I was walking around our neighborhood, and I saw this real estate office, and I went and looked in the window. They had like little listings in the window, and there's like 1 million real estate offices in Bali. There's so many realtors, so many real estate offices, one of hundreds probably. And I was just poking around, looking at the listings, like, oh, it's cool, and thought nothing of it. We came back in June. June or July? July. We came back in June or July. I'm eating breakfast with my friend Coach. We're right next door at this restaurant, and we walk out. I'm like, holy shit. That's actually the real estate office that I came to in March. I said, Coach, let's go inside. Let's go talk to these people. So I went inside. I talked to this French woman that works there. And we were just talking, like, what's it look like here? I was thinking about doing a year lease. She's like, no one really does year leases. You should just look at doing a long-term leasehold. I'm like, I don't know. That's interesting, but I'll think about it. Again, didn't think much of it. So we leave, and like a month later, Coach flies back home. We're still here. I'm driving around in Praia, which is like the adjacent town of Canggu. And there's like this little bubble that we had always stayed in Prairie on. So I just went like a bit further north, and it opened up to like nice rice terraces. It was super quiet, and it's on the same main road. I remember telling Sarah, that's where I want to have a house. I said, we should go drive up there. That's exactly where I want to have a house. So anyways, we come back here, and between whatever, July and now, we decided, all right, we're not going to do we're not going to do a year lease because you got to pay all the way up front. And the math just isn't very good. So let's just buy something on a leasehold. So we tour all these houses with a real estate office. I don't even know, how do we get their contact information?
I think our friend Jade gave us the contact.
Friend Jade gave us the contact information. No idea who they were. So they start showing us these houses. We're bopping around. We told them, generally Prairie on, kind of this general area. We're looking at houses, pretty big radius, probably like a 20-mile radius, just bopping around. And I think it was 2 real estate companies we used. So remember the first one?
Yeah, it was 2 real estate companies, but we only toured with one. We only toured with Bali Exception, which is what we went with.
Remember that when we saw the Russian lady's house? Was that still Bali Exception?
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, you're right. It was 2 different. Yeah.
So the second batches of houses with this real estate company. Anyways, they take us to this house. If we fall in love with it immediately, I'm like, holy shit, this is also on that road that I had driven on in August. I'm like, or whenever the hell that was. I'm like, this is crazy. But let's take it. So we go and put in the offer. Anyways, they finish with the due diligence. We get a call yesterday that we need to come in and sign. So we drive in, we leave our house, and I pull up. I said, you're kidding me. This is the same real estate office that I came to in March. This is the same real estate office that I came to with Coach in June and July. And the house is on the same road that I've been driving on, that I've been telling you this is where I want to own a house. I didn't even have to force that. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's uncanny. Mm-hmm. I do feel like the more you start flexing that muscle, I think it just starts happening faster, and it happens more frequently, and it gets bigger, and it requires almost less effort. Like, we didn't have to go and hunt that down. It was like a friend gave us the real estate contact person, which had the house that we wanted on the street without us knowing it. We contacted the realtor, we didn't contact the house. They just happened to show us that house, and then it just came full circle. I'm like, that is so weird. And I remember on the night in March, this is where when you make that decision and you actually decide, it all changes. Because I remember in March, when I walked past that place, I'm looking at the villas for sale, and I had my first thought of like, oh, I could live here. Mm-hmm. And we were maybe like 2 or 3 days in at the time of being in Bali, so I was still very new. But I was like, yeah, I could see myself living here. The villas are beautiful and stuff. And then again, I decided in June or July, whatever month it was, when I went in with Coach, I decided that I'm going to do a leasehold. And I actually remember texting you and saying, I think we should do a leasehold, which is like essentially, it's like buying for expats. And so at both those points, I decided. And then the world just started moving around and shape-shifting.
The puzzle pieces came together. Yeah, and we really decided within 1 week to go from we're going to do a year lease to we are going to do a 29-year leasehold. It wasn't like this.
Well, no, I would say we were severely on the fence.
Well, we were talking about it, and we knew the math wasn't mathing with the 1-year lease. It didn't make sense. But we decided, because we were still looking at both 1-year leases and
we're looking at
starting to look at the others. But then we were like, fuck it, let's go all in and buy our first house.
Well, it changed. We were looking at both since the summer, but what changed is what I didn't realize, because like, for example, our house, if you annualized it, would be like $10,000 a year. But that same house would be like 40 or 50 grand a year.
For the 1-year lease.
For the 1-year lease. So like on principle, I didn't really love that. But what did change is when we came back, we found out that 1-year lease is due up front.
Oh yeah, we'd be paying $50,000 to $70,000 up front.
Up front. And then you could buy a house for 3 or 4 times that. And then it's all up front. So you're like, you might as well just do that. So anyways, yeah, I thought that was a crazy story. And I just feel like I have experienced so many examples of that. And I think you have too.
For sure.
That's just no way. And you 100% like attracts like 100%. And I think you really see that in relationships. Why are people always getting cheated on? Why are people always finding these partners that are dysfunctional or chaotic or unstable? It's like, common denominator. Take a look in the mirror. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Relationships are a mirror in every way. Yeah, even in our relationship, it's for sure.
Oh, it's always a mirror no matter what.
But it's weird that you always attract that, even like going from like toxic relationships where you bring that out in each other to like a healthy relationship where you're still like mirroring the healthy patterns. Like, it's just so interesting.
Well, you mirror it all. The good, the bad, the ugly. You're always going to learn in a relationship.
Yeah.
There's no exceptions there. But it's the severity of what's being mirrored. It's like Is it just like a little
drama?
just a little, dark cloud in the corner, or is it like a thunderstorm that comes through? Because you can deal with the dark cloud. You can look at it, you can recognize it. But when a fucking tornado blows through your relationship every day, no matter how strong you are, you can't fight that. That's a force of nature. And so I think it depends on the level of dysfunction. But every relationship is going to have some level of dysfunction, and that gives you the opportunity to work through it.
Human beings are just dysfunctional. There's no one-way street for humans. We've got a lot of dead ends and winding roads along the way. That analogy went out the window.
Don't know where you were going with that.
Okay, let's do like a fun question. Who said I love you first?
Sarah.
Me. Accidentally, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have. I would have waited, but it was an accident.
You wouldn't have said it first?
No, I would have. I would have waited for you to say it first, but then I
Why
accidentally.
that?
I don't know.
That's weird.
Well, I would have said it maybe if it like really felt right in the moment, but I think
there has to be any
usually-
rules to the road. No,
I feel like usually I would have waited.
Screw
for
the usually.
Well, I said it first anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be. I think whoever feels it in the moment gets to say it. There should be no
But
rules.
like I don't want to say it and then like if you like feel obligated to say it back.
Well, hopefully you're not with a person that feels obligated. And then from there, what you're really saying is, I'm scared that you wouldn't say it, or you would say it and not mean it. But that's the price of love. I mean, how can you love without having some level of risk?
That's true. Well, it doesn't really matter because I kind of just blurted it out without even thinking about
That to me feels very natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, it was very natural.
that's based off of this is what I'm feeling, not I'm trying to strategize of what the right time is or when it's appropriate, or I'm going to wait for this other person to say it.
I think I was like, because I love you. And then I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't mean that. And then I was like, wait, maybe I do. And you were like, I love you too. And I was like, okay, well, then I meant it.
You only meant it if it was reciprocated, huh?
Well, no, I meant it no matter what, but I would have only admitted that I meant it if it was reciprocated.
Yeah.
So, same and not the same. Okay, this one's for Sumner about land. Wow, we got so many questions. We're not going to cover these. In your coaching group, how long does it take to get your first deal?
Depends on the person. Depends on. I mean, I'll zoom way out. Look at when you join Leah. Like the work to be done is done on the education side. Like that's where all the work goes in. And so I wouldn't even think about the deal. I'd think about how many boulders can I push up this mountain in terms of getting this work done. There's 300 plus hours of coaching content inside of Leah. 11 coaching calls a month. There's a lot. And the reason that there's a lot is you're taking on a lot. It's a lot to learn. And so there's people that come in with extreme vigor and like they're ready to just work, and they direct that work towards education. And it's like one step backwards to go 2 steps forward, right? So those folks usually will get their first contract. If you're really lightning fast, I would say like 60 to 90 days, maybe more average 90 to 120 days. That's to get your first contract. Now, what you don't want to do is you're so eager to get your first deal that you say, that education stuff looks like a lot of work with not a lot of return. Let me just go get to the meat and potatoes and start taking action. Funnily enough, that's 2 steps forward and 20 steps backwards. And that's how you get no deals and waste your money and waste your time. So there's a big caveat there. Like it's not as easy as like, oh, go send out some marketing and get some deals. So it looks a little weird in the beginning because you're putting a lot of work forth that feels like, when is this going to translate? And so talk about people that have faith. Those are people that they're all in. And in fact, in Leah, we have a phrase that we call surrender to the system. Ultimately, that's what you need to do. You need to come in with no hubris. You need to bow down and submit to the system and just chip away and work at it. In the beginning, it's really all education. Now, that's acquiring your first contract. When you sell the contract and get cash in the bank, it's so variable. That part we can't really control. We spend a lot of time trying to pick the right markets and price things correctly, but land is illiquid, it's lumpy, like you don't know exactly what land is worth. Like you could say high level certainty what this microphone is worth, but land it's harder to price. Typically though, I would say 30 to 60 days to sell the contract. Sometimes you sell it the first day in an hour. Sometimes it could take 120 days to sell it. So it can take a while. But really like your first year in land, like that's, what's a good analogy? That's preschool. You know, the preschoolers shouldn't be thinking about taking the SATs. Like, don't think about getting rich your first year. Don't think about building this big business. You're laying the foundation. You're getting educated. And luckily, you could probably still get paid and make good money in the meantime, but don't let that be the goal. You're setting yourself up for the next decade or more. So be patient, be diligent, lay the foundation for the next year or two, reap the rewards. And the beautiful thing is, most people aren't willing to do that. And that's why the folks that are absolutely dominate. So there's just like a real price of admissions for this stuff.
Delayed gratification is such a bitch.
Yeah, but I think we got to reframe it. Like for me, I kind of get juiced up when I'm like, this is so delayed that I know that almost no one else would be willing to delay for this long. Like, that's kind of cool. And you're like, it makes it coveted. You're like, this is difficult. That's kind of exciting. You can kind of get off on that, you know? This is not easy. This is not going to happen quick. I know the majority of people would have fallen off a long time ago, and I kind of get fired up on that, honestly.
You do get fired up on that. I've never seen someone get so fired up about a challenge like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that if we're talking purely about business, if your challenges are your greatest opportunity, it's trite and it's cliche, but like that's the fact. You want to make more, you want a big business, solve bigger problems, solve them more often, and put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And if you're trying to build a business that's like, oh, it keeps me afloat and I just runs on autopilot and I get paid, that doesn't exist. And if that does exist, it's a flash in the pan for a blink of an eye. If you want to build something of substance and go far, problems will be your life. You'll live in that.
You can't scale a business that you haven't created yet. So I think a lot of people that jump into a coaching program where people are creating these big teams and getting $700,000 payouts in their first year, like people are looking at these people like, oh, they just did that in the first 30 days. That's almost never the case.
That's always never the case, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a big problem in the like business coaching of the world that you do a really great job of, especially when you're sharing student stories, is that you have to lay the groundwork no matter what the business is. But I feel like a lot of businesses won't tell you that, but some
that's the thing is that business is business. I don't care if we're talking about land, fitness coaching, selling microphones. Business is business, and business ultimately is a skill. So like when you see people throwing up crazy wins, you have no context on who are they and what were they doing before. Some people will just possess more skill than you. That's fine. You can gather those skills, but mileage may vary, right? For example, that guy that Sarah's referencing, it's a husband and wife team. It's Adam and Alicia out of Colorado. First year, $700,000. They crushed it, killers, but they've run multiple businesses. He's been an entrepreneur for over a decade. And when he came into this, he owned 2 other businesses. He sold his businesses to go all in. Like, might be a very different starting point than you, and you need to take that consideration. This is not like a even playing field. That's the beauty of business. It's not even, and that's okay. But we can all acquire the skills to get better.
Delayed gratification in any business, that's gonna probably be your biggest challenge. Tips for not getting jealous when your man is around other women. I guess we could both answer this question, vice versa, but for me, I don't think I'm an inherently very jealous person, but I also think Sumner has never ever given me a reason to be jealous. I think if there's two sides, like if you are someone who has maybe had an unfaithful partner or has some like inner things to work through that has nothing to do with your current partner, like it wouldn't be fair for me to take like my past experiences out on Sumner when he's absolutely done nothing to make me question his or how faithful he is. I don't think that I'm an inherently jealous person. And it's funny because I've actually gotten this question quite a few times in my DMs because we do hang out with a lot of my girlfriends. So that's another part of it. They're all usually my girlfriends. We're not usually around like a bunch of strangers. So I feel safe within my relationship and trusting with my partner. I also feel safe within my friendships. And Sumner like hugging another girl or putting his arm, that doesn't trigger anything for me. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think if there was like any reason for me to not trust my partner, like if there was a history there or something, I'd probably feel jealous, but I've never been given a reason to.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, it's about the group of people that you're with, so do you trust them, whether they're your friends or strangers or whatever. If there's people that are like obviously extremely untrustworthy, something that might bother you in that sense, you know what I mean? So I think it definitely depends on the group that you surround yourself with. And for sure, it depends on your partner too. Do you trust your partner? Because your partner could do something that wouldn't bother you, but another partner could do the same thing because they're untrustworthy. You're like, the intention's way off here. So there's that. But I think beyond that too, everyone has different little trigger points. So that's why you need to communicate. Like for some guys, their girl wearing anything but like a blouse and a bonnet would like, it sets them off. For me, like that stuff doesn't really bother me that much. You know what I mean? Of course, I don't want like nipples out or something crazy like that. But
even if I had my nipples out, I don't know if I'm with you, like, I don't know if you, like, I feel like you hype me up when I dress like a little sexy. Like,
yeah,
you're like, that's my girl.
There's within reason for sure. But yeah. So everyone has, well, what I'm trying to say is everyone's got their own triggers though. Yeah. And it's just communicating that your partner knows what your boundaries are and you get to set those. So yeah, I think it's person to person.
Yeah, I mean, I've dated men who didn't like me wearing bikinis or taking photos in them. I know what like real jealousy looks like, and for all the situations that I've had, it's either been that they have had a past where they have had, but for all of the past relationships where I've been with a partner who gets very jealous, they've had a past with a partner who's been unfaithful. So I think that's their thing to work through. Like, I would get really frustrated actually with jealousy because I'm like, I've literally never given any reason to not have your trust. I think it's a two-way street in a relationship, like reassuring your partner if they need it, but also like understanding each person is very different. Like,
yeah, I think too, you might not have known in past relationships, it could be something as so subtle, like whatever was triggering that person, you know what I mean? That's where I think it just comes back to communication. It could be something as simple as like, I don't know, like you shared your french fries with someone, don't ever share food with another person. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what triggers that person? Because every human has some form of jealousy, but not all humans get triggered in the same way.
For sure, but I also don't think you can cater, like I'm not going to cater what I wear. Like if my partner's like, yeah, your nipples are out, like be like, I don't like that, that's different. But like, I'm not going to not wear a bikini or the shorts that I want to wear just because my partner is jealous of people that don't exist. I don't know. I think you can respect.
There's a happy medium there.
Yes, I think you can respect your partner's wants and needs, but I also believe if you know your own intentions and you're wearing something because it makes you feel confident or whatever it is, that you don't necessarily need to cater everything to that.
No, you shouldn't cater everything to it. I mean, it's such a loaded question. I think that's where people get to decide what they want in a relationship. You know, like people have non-negotiables, and I agree. You know, one partner shouldn't absolutely bend just to meet all the needs of their other partner. You know, it cuts both ways. But I think in that example too, and I don't feel anything anyway about this, but I think it is important to get to like the base layer. So it's like, okay, you don't want to just be submissive for no reason and just be like, oh, my partner doesn't want me to wear a bikini, I won't wear a bikini, oh my goodness, I would never want to offend them. But then I'd also ask, why do you actually feel like you have to wear a bikini? If that is hurting your partner, is wearing a bikini way over that? And then you said something about confidence. It's like, well, why do you not feel confident without wearing a bikini? So I think you need, I'm just saying, I think in a relationship, you just need to get to the base layer.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying either person has to comply.
I don't necessarily know if that's...
I'm not saying they have to comply, but I think it's foolhardy just to look at it. And this is what happens with jealousy too, is that people are just like, you made me jealous. No, screw you. I didn't mean to make you jealous. And then like, that's all they ever talk about. But it's like, why don't we just like, actually, you could just unpack it and be like, well, what's actually going on here? And then maybe the other person's like, I actually just had this experience growing up. Like my mom was wearing a bikini. She got all this attention. It's like, I just go deep on it. Like just go like unpack it a little bit. And I think in both situations, you'll realize how the story that's playing out is probably something that's actually not that meaningful. And it's just like something from your childhood. Like, I don't know. I think it's worth picking apart.
Yeah.
I don't think that people should just say, I won't comply with my partner because they're asking me to do something. They also shouldn't just blindly comply. But there has to be a cost benefit, a risk to reward, to where you say, it is worth not doing this to not hurt my partner, and it doesn't give me enough upside to justify it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think having the understanding is part of it. Like, you can have the conversations, have the understanding. And I do think there's like, okay, here's how I'll word this. Respecting your partner is different than complying. Like, I think you can respect your partner, and like, if you do understand the root cause, like, God forbid you ever told me to not wear a bikini, which I just think I have such a problem with people telling me what to wear and what to like look like. I think for me, that's like, maybe that's triggering to me, but I definitely could not blindly comply. I would need to understand like a deeper reasoning.
That's why you have to you have to unpack it. And it's a weird example, but Again, I think there's something to be said about unpacking these things.
Yeah, I mean, you have to unpack anything that's going to be like a reoccurring issue or anything
But I think
generally, but especially reoccurring.
The feelings, like when jealousy comes out, it gets so escalated and people just like they get so emotional.
Yeah.
And it's so triggering. And then when someone's feeling like they're being controlled, that's emotional. So you just got these two emotional people going at each other.
Yeah, I think feeling controlled is like one of the most triggering things for me ever. Like I don't like to feel like my decisions are being controlled by someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think jealousy is a very interesting emotion to look at because, yeah, I mean, look, there are people out there with legitimately bad intentions, either your partner or people that you are interfacing with your partner. That's one thing. But to be like, damn, why does that actually make me feel that way? I feel like jealousy can teach you a lot. And
Yeah.
It's worth looking into.
For sure. Yeah, I also think like there's no real tips for not getting jealous. I think you also need to trust your gut. Like I really don't get jealous with Sumner because he has truly never given me a reason to, and it's the people we're around has never given me a reason to. But if I ever did feel that, especially because I'm not an inherently jealous person, I would trust my gut. Like on if I felt like there was someone else that like I didn't trust.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, there's more.
Yeah. What's your biggest pet peeves of each other? Oh, I can say mine.
What go?
Okay. Sumner's sense of time is not like anyone else's sense of time that I've ever met. Probably my number one pet peeve is when Sumner says just a minute or like just a couple more minutes because it's like 30 more minutes. And that's especially when he's like finishing a task for work and like he doesn't know exactly how much time it's going to take him. It's usually 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So Sumner's sense of time, especially when I'm hungry, is my number one. My number two pet peeve is probably Sumner leaving his socks in his sneakers. And he'll put his sneakers in the same place and just pile the socks around it. So if you come back in like 3 to 4 days, there's like 4 pairs of socks.
But I stuff them in so they're nice and neat.
You can still see that there's multiple pairs of socks in the shoes.
Yeah.
That's probably number two. And then my third pet peeve.
Boy, you've got a lot over there.
I'm trying to think of the third one. Actually, okay, my third one is like sometimes in the morning you just want me to like right off. Yeah. You're like on a mission. I gotta shower, gotta drink my water, gotta take my supplements, and then you just like get out of bed and I don't get a kiss and you're just like going to do your thing. I hate that. Just give me a little smile, a little hug, and a kiss.
Yeah, I definitely wake up on a mission. We wake up.
You two wake up on a mission every morning.
But that's the thing is we've just spent 8 hours cuddling together. So I feel like
it.
I feel like
I was sleeping.
All my needs are met, and you wake up as if like you haven't seen me in weeks. So.
I love a morning hug. I love like a morning like big bear hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm not opposed to morning hugs, but you like to lay down in bed and snuggle a little bit longer. I'm ready to go.
Somehow you remember us cuddling and I'm dead asleep. So
you fall asleep before me, that's why.
That's
It's a terrible sense of direction. The worst person to get directions from, truly. You'll tell me to go left when it's actually a right. It's crazy.
Tell you to go up when it's down.
Yeah, so that's definitely a very big pet peeve of mine. I feel like I'm stubborn, but you're also very stubborn, and just in one sense that I can think of. You're stubborn. I feel like when you things get emotional, I can it's almost like a glint in your eye where I know you agree with me, but it's going to take about 20 minutes until you finally concede. And you're gonna say things that I'm like, that doesn't even really make sense, and I know you agree with me. And we fast forward 20 minutes later, and not such simple terms, but no, I agree. I saw that in your eye a long time ago. Why couldn't we have just said that then? So I think you're emotionally stubborn in some senses. You're definitely.
Where are you going with that? Definitely.
You could just little things, how you make the bed, just some quality control in some areas. That was what I would say. Doing things thoroughly, just being thorough.
Sumner is kind of like an OCD neat freak, though.
Yeah.
He definitely likes things a particular way.
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's do one more. Do you only date fit people? What initially attracted you to each other?
Do I only date fit people? No.
Do you only date?
I mean, I don't know what you means by fit people. People that go to the gym per se? No. I mean, I'm not dating anyone currently.
What?
But you know what I mean? I'm on it's like an irrelevant question as it stands currently. But no, I'm not. I mean, people that are take care of their body, I guess, but that's about it. I think that like honestly, like people that are into fitness more than anything, it just kind of like overlaps hobbies. But I don't think it's necessarily like a physical prerequisite by any means. In fact, I think bodies that are like overly hard and muscular, I don't really find that attractive. So yeah, not a requirement. I don't know about for you. It might be more for you.
I mean, I feel like not in a shallow way, but I feel like I've only been attracted to men who go to the gym and lift weights.
But you wonder if it's like kind of like selection bias because you also spent so much time there.
I've also only really met people through either the gym or fitness or like mutual friends, and everyone's into fitness. So it's hard. My whole life since I was like 16 has revolved around the gym. So yeah, maybe it's selection bias. Maybe it's also because I lift weights. And so I'm like, not that I could meet a guy who's smaller than I am, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's also just what maybe I'm attracted to. Like I never really say that I would have like a specific type. Well, it's Sumner. I don't even see any other men. They're just all like walking blobs now. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where else I would have ever met anyone.
Yeah.
All I do is like go to the gym and walk around.
That's our cue.
Oh, that's our cue. Okay, we are wrapping it
Come
up.
on, Ed.
Thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one.
Salute.